The wind in Saskatchewan doesn't just blow, it speaks. It carries the whispers of wheat stalks bending in unison, the distant lowing of cattle settling for night, the creak of barn doors as swung open and closed for generations. For 53 years, I knew that wind's language as well as I knew my own name, Thomas Merrick, farmer, father, steward of 320 acres that my grandfather cleared with his own calloused hands in 1919. The farmhouse was white-clapboard, painted every 5 years like clockwork. My wife, Sarah, chose that tradition. She said fresh paint was a promise, that we'd still be here, that the farm would endure. We painted together in spring 2003, both in our 60s, laughing as she got more paint on me than on the boards. She passed that November. A stroke without warning, without mercy, without time to say the 1,000 things I'd always meant to say. After that, the paint started to peel. By the time I noticed, it had been years. By the time I thought about fixing it, I was 72, my hands shook with early Parkinson's, and my daughter Emily was visiting with her husband Marcus, their concerned faces hovering over me like storm clouds. "Dad," Emily said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table where she'd done her homework as a child, "we need to talk about your future." The way she said future made it sound like something I was too old to have. Marcus was new then, married only 3 years. He wore expensive suits even on casual visits, worked as a financial advisor in Toronto, spoke in that smooth, assured tone that made everything sound reasonable, inevitable, correct. "The farm is becoming too much for you," he said gently. "I manage," I said. "Dad." Emily reached across the table. She had her mother's eyes, that same warm brown that could melt resolve. "The north fence is falling. The barn roof leaks. You can't keep up. I've kept this place running for over 50 years. Marcus leaned forward. "Tom, the market for agricultural land has never been stronger. Your property could fetch $3.8 million. Maybe more." The number hung in the air like a foreign word. "You could retire," Emily said softly. "Really retire. Remember how you and Mom talked about seeing the Grand Canyon? You could finally do those things." Every point they made was logical, every concern legitimate, and yet something in my chest tightened. Over the next weeks, Marcus showed me glossy brochures for retirement communities, places with names like Golden Years Village, filled with photos of white-haired people smiling around craft tables. He explained how he'd manage my money, how a trust would provide monthly income, security for life. "That's what I do," he said with that confident smile. "I protect people's futures." Emily found me in the barn one evening. "I can't watch you struggle here alone," she said, voice cracking. "I can't lie awake wondering if you've fallen, if you're hurt. Please, Dad, please. For me." What could I say to that? To the fear in my daughter's voice? To the desperate plea of a child who'd watched her mother die? "I'll do it," I finally told her. "I'll sell." The process moved fast. Marcus handled everything. Appraisals, negotiations, legal documents. He'd set up a power of attorney to expedite things, he said. Just temporary, just to make things easier. Emily was there when I signed the papers, her hand on my shoulder. "You're doing the right thing," she whispered. The farm sold for $3.8 million. Marcus assured me the money would be invested wisely, provide monthly income, give me security. All I needed to do was sign a few more documents, transfer the funds into the trust account he'd established. I signed everything he put in front of me. The buyers wanted possession quickly. I had 60 days to clear out, 60 days to pack up 53 years. On the last day, I stood in the empty farmhouse, seeing wheat fields ripple in August wind. Remember my grandfather's voice. "This land is your responsibility now, boy. You belong to it." I'd failed him. "Ready, Dad?" Emily called. Behind her, Marcus loaded final boxes into their SUV. "Where are we going?" "We found you a great place. A basement suite in Winnipeg. Very affordable." "Winnipeg? That's 5 hours away." "We can visit more easily," Emily explained. "Toronto to Winnipeg is a quick flight. I thought you said a retirement community." A glance passed between them. "Those turn out to be expensive, Tom," Marcus said. Monthly fees would eat through your income quickly. This way, we're being smart with your resources. Something cold settled in my stomach. What about the $3.8 million? Invested, working for you. You'll be comfortable, I promise. The basement suite was a concrete box buried beneath a house in Winnipeg's North End. 800 square feet. Bedroom barely large enough for a double bed. Bathroom with shower stall I had to turn sideways in. Living area with kitchenette. One ground-level window that looked out onto people's feet. The landlord showed me the fuse box, the heaters. Your daughter paid first and last month. After that, rent is due on the 1st. $900. I sat on the second-hand couch Emily had bought at a thrift store and looked at the water-stained ceiling, at carpet that smelled of mildew, at my wedding photo. Sarah in her white dress, me in my good suit, now sitting on a particle board table. And I wept. The routine was suffocating. I'd wake before dawn out of habit, then remember there were no animals to feed, nowhere to be. Emily called weekly, always cheerful. How are you settling in? Fine. Marcus is working on things with your investments. Nothing to worry about. When will I see statements? I'll have Marcus send those over. The statements never came. I received $1,500 monthly, barely enough for rent, food, utilities, medications. Nothing left over. No buffer for emergencies. When I finally reached Emily about it, her voice had an edge. Dad, you can't keep harassing Marcus at work. You're getting your monthly income, aren't you? That's all I get? From $3.8 million. The money has to last you the rest of your life. Marcus is being conservative. We're protecting you. From what? From making bad decisions. From yourself. The line went dead. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever felt the weight of trust betrayed, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And if you're comfortable, share your own story. Sometimes knowing we're not alone is the only thing that gets us through. Your story matters. Winter came brutal to Winnipeg. The kind of cold that turns breath to ice crystals. I stayed in the basement mostly, listening to the family upstairs, their pounding feet a reminder of life happening above me. In February, the bedroom heater stopped working. The repair would be my expense. I couldn't afford it, so I slept with 3 blankets, wore my coat inside. In March, Emily emailed, not even a phone call, saying they couldn't visit. Marcus had been promoted. They were buying a new house. She'd try to come in summer. Maybe. In April, I fell. My foot caught on the rug, and I went down hard, hitting my head on the coffee table. I lay bleeding onto the carpet, wondering if this was how it would end. Alone, undiscovered, until the landlord came for rent. In May came a notice. The house was being sold. The new owners wanted to convert the basement into a home gym. I had until end of June to find a new place. I sat with that notice for 3 days, trying to figure out how I was supposed to start over at 73 with $1,500 and no one who cared whether I lived or died. And then I got angry. The cold, clarifying anger of someone with nothing left to lose. I started searching the basement with purpose. I found my father's old farm ledgers, my mother's recipes, my wedding album, and then, moving boxes to check for water damage, I found something else. The wall behind the boxes looked wrong. A section of concrete, 2 feet square, slightly different color. I pressed it. It gave slightly. Someone had opened this wall and sealed it back up using a butter knife. I chipped at the concrete. It crumbled, revealing older brick. More chipping, more dust. Then my knife hit metal. 20 minutes later, a small safe, 18 inches square, embedded in the wall. Old-fashioned, with a combination dial rusted solid. I worked at the corroded edges for hours. Finally something gave. With a metallic screech, the safe door came free. Inside was a leather document holder. Inside there were papers, yellowed, covered in precise typewriter font from another era. I brought them to the window and started reading. A trust agreement, dated September 12, 1947. A deed, a bank statement, official stamps, signatures, the seal of the Manitoba provincial government. I read them 3 times. 4. 5. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. But it was. I called a taxi and gave the driver the address of the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce on Portage Avenue, the oldest, most established bank in Winnipeg, the one whose name appeared on these documents. When I reached the counter, a young teller asked how she could help. I need to speak with someone about a trust from 1947. Her smile flickered. That's very old. Do you have documentation? I pulled out the papers. Her eyes widened. Please wait here, she said. I need to get my manager. The manager was Carol Pemberton, 50s, steel gray hair and sharp eyes that softened when she saw the documents. Where'd you find these? Hidden in a wall, in my basement apartment. She read slowly, occasionally glancing at me. Finally, Mr. Merrick, would you please come to my office? She spread the documents on her desk and asked questions. I told her everything. About the farm, Emily and Marcus, signing papers I didn't understand, ending up in that basement with $1,500 monthly. She made a phone call. 20 minutes of tense waiting. Then her phone rang. Yes? You're certain? The account is still... Yes. Thank you. She looked at me with an unreadable expression. Mr. Merrick, she said slowly, this trust never expired. The room felt airless. The Merrick Family Trust was established in 1947 by your grandfather with $1,800. The trust was designed to generate income for his descendants in perpetuity. With 77 years of compound interest, conservative investment, and no distributions taken. She turned her screen toward me. $7.2 million. That's... I couldn't form words. There's more. Your grandfather purchased a property in Winnipeg, the house you're currently renting, as an investment. The trust still owns it. You're the beneficiary of the trust that owns your basement apartment. The floor tilted. According to our records, your father died in 1996. The trust should have transferred to you then. But there's no record of notification. No contact. This account was archived into our legacy system. Unless someone specifically searched for it, it would never show up. It's only because you brought the original documentation that we found it. I sat there, trying to process spending 6 months in a basement I owned, living on scraps while $7.2 million sat in an account with my name. There's something else, Carol said carefully. When you sold your farm, did you sign a power of attorney? Yes, but just temporarily. And did you ever revoke it? The room went cold. No one told me I needed to. Mr. Merrick, a power of attorney gives complete legal authority over your finances. Unless revoked, it remains in effect. If your son-in-law has had unrestricted access since the farm sale... She paused. You need to speak with a lawyer immediately. The trust we discovered has language protecting it from outside claims. Your son-in-law couldn't have known about it. This money is safe. But as for the farm proceeds... She leaned forward. I've worked here 30 years. I know what financial elder abuse looks like. This is all the hallmarks. The word abuse hung in the air. My daughter wouldn't. Maybe she doesn't know, Carol said gently. Or maybe... She didn't finish. I left with documents, a debit card linked to the trust account, and a lawyer's name. Don't wait, Carol said. Cases like this, time matters. The longer you wait, the harder funds are to recover. Before we continue, I need to pause. If this story is touching something deep inside you, if you're seeing echoes of your own experiences, please don't just watch and move on. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever had confront betrayal from someone you trusted? Have you ever discovered that love and exploitation can wear the same face? Your comments create a community of witnesses, people who refuse to let these truths be buried. The lawyer was Sharon Kowalski, 60-something, with a no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd fought decades of battles for people who'd run out of fight. She read my documentation in silence. Based on what you've shown me, she finally said, a reasonable return on $3.8 million should generate $8,000 to $15,000 monthly. You're receiving a fraction. that suggests the money is being siphoned through fees or redirected entirely. Stolen. That's a criminal allegation we'd need to prove, with a valid power of attorney. Many actions that would otherwise be theft are technically legal, but we'll build a case. We'll subpoena records, establish a pattern of financial abuse. Over the next weeks, we filed motions. Marcus's lawyer fought every request, but slowly documents emerged. The trust Marcus had established, it listed him as primary beneficiary, me as secondary. Investment fees of 40% annually, 40%. Transfers to numbered accounts. A mortgage on a Toronto property in Marcus's name, secured against my farm sale proceeds. My $3.8 million had been systematically dismantled, piece by piece, hidden behind legal language and false assurances. Emily's name appeared on some documents. Not all, but enough. Sharon looked at me across her desk. You have grounds for a criminal complaint. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, financial elder abuse. With the evidence we have, there's a strong case. What about my daughter? That's your decision. She may have known everything, or he may have manipulated her too. But she signed documents. She received benefits. I thought about the little girl who'd ridden on my shoulders through wheat fields, who'd helped bottle feed calves, who'd sat beside me on the tractor, hands pretending to steer. I thought about the woman who'd squeeze my shoulder as I signed away my farm. You're doing the right thing. Had she known? Had she looked me in the eye and lied? Or had Marcus woven a story so convincing that she believed she was helping? I called Emily. She answered on the fourth ring. Dad, is everything okay? I found something, I said, in the basement wall. Documents. Silence. What kind of documents? A trust. From 1947. My grandfather's trust. $7.2 million, Emily. Money I never knew existed. Money that's been sitting there my whole life. More silence. Then, that's wonderful, Dad. That's great news. I also spoke with a lawyer about the farm money, about where it went. Her breath caught. Dad, did you know? Did I know what? Did you know what Marcus was doing? The fees, the transfers, the accounts in his name? Did you know he was stealing from me? It's not stealing. It's financial management. He was protecting you. Protecting me? I've been living in a freezing basement on $900 after rent. I couldn't afford to fix a heater. I fell and bled onto the carpet and couldn't afford to call for help. That's protection? Dad, please, let me explain. It's complicated. The investments, the market volatility. Were you buying a house? Silence. Were you buying a house with my money, Emily? We needed somewhere to live. And it's an investment. It's part of the portfolio. It's my farm. It's my life. And you took it. We were trying to help. By leaving me with nothing, by ignoring my calls, by moving me 5 hours away, so you wouldn't have to see what you'd done. That's not fair. You're right, I said. It's not fair. None of this is fair. I hung up. Sharon filed criminal complaints. The investigation took months. Marcus was arrested at his office. White-collar fraud, elder abuse, breach of fiduciary duty. Emily wasn't charged, but the investigation revealed she'd known about at least some of the transfers. She'd signed documents approving loans against my money. She'd benefited directly. The preliminary hearings were agony. Sitting in a courtroom, watching my daughter testify, watching her avoid my eyes, listening to her explain how Marcus had convinced her this was all legal, all proper, all for my benefit. I thought we were helping him, she said, voice breaking. I thought he couldn't manage anymore. The prosecutor was merciless. But you benefited financially from this help? Yes. To the tune of approximately $1.3 million. It wasn't like that. Answer the question. Did you and your husband benefit financially from your father's farm sale proceeds? Yes. I watched her face crumble, and despite everything, my heart broke, because she was still my daughter, still the little girl who believed in fairy tales and happy endings, still the child I'd held on the day she was born and promised to always protect. But she hadn't protected me. Marcus took a plea deal. 7 years for fraud, 3 for elder abuse, running concurrently. He'd have to make restitution. What could be recovered of the stolen funds? His financial advisor license was permanently revoked. The civil case took longer. Eventually, a settlement. $1.8 million returned from seized assets. The Toronto house sold to recover additional funds. Marcus's remaining investments liquidated. Not everything, but something. Emily and I didn't speak for a year. Then one day, she called, "Dad." Just that one word. And I heard everything. The guilt, the grief, the desperate hope for forgiveness. "I'm here," I said. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. But I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I was stupid and greedy, and I believed things I shouldn't have believed, that I let you down in the worst possible way." I looked around the small apartment I'd moved into, not the basement, never again a basement, but a proper one-bedroom with windows that showed sky, in a building owned by my trust, managed by professionals Sharon had vetted personally. "Did you know?" I asked. "All of it from the beginning?" "No, I swear I didn't. At first, I really thought we were helping. But then I started seeing the numbers, the transfers, and I asked Marcus about them, and he had explanations that sounded reasonable, and she sobbed. "I wanted to believe him, because if I didn't believe him, then I had to face what we'd done to you. And I couldn't. I was a coward." "Yes," I said. "You were. I know. I needed you, Emily. After your mother died, after the farm, I needed you, and you abandoned me." "I know." We sat in silence, the phone line connecting us across 5 hours in a chasm of broken trust. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I finally said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I don't want to hate you. I don't want to spend whatever years I have left carrying that hate. What do you want? Time. Distance. And maybe eventually we can figure out what comes after betrayal. If anything does." "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." She hung up, and I sat holding the phone, thinking about how love can survive almost anything except indifference, but trust, once shattered, might never be fully repaired. The months that followed were strange. I had more money than I'd ever imagined. The original trust plus recovered funds plus careful investments Sharon helped me arrange. I could afford anything, go anywhere, do anything. But I was 74 years old. My hand shook more now. The Parkinson's was progressing, and all I really wanted was the farm I'd lost. I drove out to Saskatchewan one autumn day. The land had been sold to a development corporation. They demolished the farmhouse, torn down the barn, cleared the fields. Where wheat had grown was now the foundation for a housing subdivision. Future home of Meadowlark Estates. The sign proclaimed. I stood at the edge of what used to be my land and felt nothing. No anger, no grief. Just a hollow recognition that some things, once lost, can never be recovered. A young couple walked by, pushing a stroller, talking excitedly about lot prices and school districts. They didn't see me. I was just an old man standing by a construction site, irrelevant to their future. I drove back to Winnipeg as the sun set across the prairie, painting the sky in colors Sarah had always loved, gold and rose and deep purple. That night, I wrote a new will. The original trust would continue in perpetuity, providing for future Merricks if any existed. The recovered funds would go to an organization Sharon recommended, one that advocated for elder abuse victims, provided legal assistance, helped people who'd been betrayed by those they trusted most. Emily wasn't in the will, not out of spite, but because I needed her to understand that love and inheritance are different things. That you can't buy back what you've broken with delayed apologies and inherited wealth. Maybe someday we'd rebuild something. Maybe someday I'd be able to sit across from her without seeing the moment she chose Marcus's explanations over my suffering. Without hearing her voice on the phone, "We're protecting you." But not yet. For now, I had my small apartment with its view of sky. I had enough money to live comfortably, to support causes I believed in, to make a difference in ways I'd never imagined possible. I had the strange peace that comes from surviving something you thought would destroy you. And I had the knowledge that my grandfather, 77 years ago, had hidden money in a wall and created a trust that would never expire, that he believed in protecting future generations even when those generations didn't yet exist, that he had faith in permanence, in continuation, in the idea that some things are worth preserving against all odds. On my 75th birthday, I visited Carol Pemberton at the bank. We become something like friends, bonded by the strangeness of that day when I walked in with crumbling documents and walked out with a fortune. "How are you doing, Thomas?" she asked. "Some days good, some days less so. But I'm here." "That's something." "Carol, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That day when you saw the documents, when you looked up the account, did you know? Did you know what had happened to me?" She was quiet for a moment. "I suspected. You had a certain look. People who've been financially abused, they have a look like they're bracing for another blow, like they don't quite believe they deserve help." "Do they? Deserve help? Always," she said fiercely. "Always. No one deserves to be betrayed by people they love. No one deserves to be left in the cold with nothing." I nodded. "Thank you for believing me, for helping me. Thank you for coming in, for not giving up. You'd be surprised how many people in your situation just accept it. They think they're too old, too confused, that no one will believe them. They die without ever knowing they had options." I thought about that, about the parallel life where I never found the safe, never went to bank, never discovered the trust, where I died in that basement apartment, alone and forgotten, while millions of dollars sat unclaimed and my daughter lived comfortably in a house built on my stolen dreams. I almost didn't come in, I admitted. I almost threw the documents away, thought they were too old to matter. But you didn't. No, I didn't. That night, I dreamed of the farm. But this time, when I looked at my hands, they weren't empty or skeletal. They were just hands, old, shaking slightly, but mine. And when I turned back to the farmhouse, it wasn't on fire or demolished. It was simply gone. Not destroyed, but transformed into something else. Something I couldn't quite see, but could feel. The echo of generations, the weight of choices, the complicated legacy we leave behind. I woke in the darkness of my apartment, not frightened or disoriented, but clear-headed and calm. The clock read 4:47 a.m., almost sunrise, almost time for the work that would never again be mine to do. But I was alive. I had survived. And that, I realized, was its own kind of victory. The wind outside my window carried the sound of the city, traffic and voices, and the ordinary chaos of people living their lives. It wasn't the Saskatchewan wind I'd known for 53 years, but it was wind nonetheless. And if you listened carefully, if you really paid attention, it still spoke.